John Lebang Show has been known to make people laugh, sing, think, scream, throw things in rage, and generally lose their minds. Listener discretion is advised. And alert the media. The John Lebang Show is on the air. Welcome, my friends, to another 60 minutes of sonic vibrations headed your way. We had an interesting week here at the John Lebang Show, and now with all the stuff in the news that keeps tallying up, we have so much to talk about that I don't know if I can fit it all into this first hour, but we're going to have to try to fit most of it in the first hour, because in this week's second hour, we've got the talented Paul Farah, Mr. Comedian himself, going to be joining us for probably the whole hour in the second hour. So whatever we've got to talk about, whatever we've got to get into, we've got to do this in the first hour this week, because the mayhem will be out of hand in the second hour. If you've never heard of Paul Farah, if you haven't heard anything he's done, then you've got to tune in for that second hour, because it's going to just make you laugh so freaking hard. If you think Shady's funny, if you think any of the bits we do here on the John Lebang Show are funny, you're not going to see anything yet, because Paul Farah might be the funniest guy on internet radio right now. But with that being said, we've got to get into some things here. We got to touch on some issues. And first and foremost, I want to get back to the Las Vegas shooting for a few moments, because the timeline changed a little bit. And according to the sheriff and the FBI, the only reason the timeline changed, and let's make clear that, you know, the hotel is disputing it a little bit, the timeline. But we have the sheriff and the FBI unable to answer exactly why it happened, except to say that they were just trying to give people a sense of calm after the shooting. In other words, they were lying to the public, or at least deceiving them a little bit, because, you know, they were just trying to calm everybody after the big event, and they wanted to give a sense of, you know, control, that the police were under control, when they obviously weren't under control, nor was the FBI after the event. So, you know, they had to lie to you. I mean, that's my words. That's not how the sheriff out there in Las Vegas is putting it. That's not how he's expressing it. He's saying they did it. They gave you a timeline to give you a sense of calm, and that there is no conspiracy here between the police and the FBI and the hotel. They can't find any connections to any other people, although ISIS claims that he converted 6 months ago and that he was on his own little jihad for them. We can find that out. ISIS is claiming that, yet the police aren't giving us that information. They're saying there was no other shooter. Maybe they're lying there too, because they want to give us a sense of calm. I don't know. He's all bent out of shape, that is the sheriff, because his integrity and the integrity of the investigation is being challenged by the people who said, no, your timeline is BS. It's garbage. We watched enough videos. We've got this other evidence. So whatever you're telling us is a bunch of BS. And in his latest public appearance there, doing the interview, or I shouldn't say interview, because he didn't take questions this time, because back, I think it was Monday, when he had their last press briefing, an independent reporter started questioning him on things the mainstream media weren't asking. Of course they weren't asking. They were going to believe whatever the authorities told them. Didn't matter that there was evidence to the contrary. And so this independent reporter hits him up with some questions that were valid, that were important to the investigation if we're going to really truly find out what was going on with the shooter or the apparent shooter or whoever was behind all this.
Yeah, I don't want to get in. I appreciate what you're saying.
There have been receipts that have been obtained from the valet security system that show that
ma'am, that's not how we conduct this service, okay?
It says that he checked it on the 25th.
With
Has your timeline changed? Because the FBI has reported that he
that's
checked it on
not
the
how I
28th.
conduct press conferences,
Well,
ma'am.
has the official timeline changed? Because
Please stop asking your question.
This last one, it was on Friday. He's like, I'm not going to take questions this time. No questions. Because they didn't want to be challenged on anything else. They were saying, hey, our integrity's good. There's no conspiracy here. Nothing here to look at. Not at all. We're telling you everything, and if we tell you something and it turns out to be wrong, then just think of it as we were just trying to protect the public. Give them a sense of calm, because it was chaos out there, and we didn't want the whole world, especially the people in Vegas, to be panicking over somebody shooting out a hotel window and the possibility that there might be more shooters on the loose. We're saying there's no other shooters on the loose, and you should believe us, because when we tell you a lie, it's only to protect you. So that's where we stand with that. The investigation still seems to be going nowhere. There apparently doesn't they still can't find an actual motive. So now they're telling us that they're taking his brain. They took it out of his head apparently or something and shipped it off somewhere so they could look for some kind of anomaly, some kind of weird dysfunction in his brain, because they're out of they don't have a clue anywhere else. The great FBI. See, I'm not blaming the sheriff and the police department out there. They're probably just following along what the FBI does. And in fact, even though the sheriff says he's working in concert with them and he's not acquiescing his role, the FBI is taking a greater role in this whole thing. They've pretty much taken over the investigation. So that way, if there's anything that might be tied to anything that might need to be hidden, the FBI can for sure, without a shadow of a doubt, just make sure it doesn't reach the public eye. And they can control it. And they can make sure that anything that the public needs to hear is there to protect them, to calm them. And it doesn't mean they're lying to you. It just means they're telling you what you need to hear. Because if you heard the truth, it would probably freak you out. It'd probably not make you want to go to Vegas or other travel destinations. And it doesn't seem like you can be safe anywhere anymore, ladies and gentlemen. That's why I've been telling people what you need to be doing to have some fun, what you need to be doing to get you through these nights where you don't know what you want to do, and maybe you want to normally watch this or go out to this show. It's not safe out there anymore. At any random time, you can be caught in the crosshairs of some psychopathic nut job. So I keep telling people, you know what you should do? It's the weekend. Listen to the John Lebang Show. Tune into the John Lebang Show. Not only will we not sit here and deliberately lie to you, sure, we get a couple things wrong here and there, and we try to correct them when we do get them wrong. We're not in all places at all times, and we're not the authorities, and we don't have some giant investigative team. It's a pretty small pretty small investigative group here at the John Lebang Show. So sometimes we don't hit all aspects, but when we do find out more information, when it may be contrary to what we told you, we tell you about it. So with all the dangers in the world, it's the safest bet is to just sit home, get yourself your favorite drink, sit on your favorite couch, and tune in to the John Lebang Show. Not only will you exercise your brain, but you'll be safe at home because, at least so far, these random events haven't just been popping up in people's neighborhoods or in people's homes. They've been in more densely populated areas, in city areas, in airports, in train stations, in concert venues, in bars. These are where the events are happening. So not only will you be safe staying home listening to the John Lebang Show, you'll be entertained, you'll be saving money. And since you're saving money, you can help out maybe the sponsors of the John Lebang Show. Or even help out the John Lebang Show by purchasing one of our many items that we have to offer in our John Lebang Show store. And there's our shameless plug for the evening. But we're not getting the straight poop out of the government, and they admitted it today, or on Friday, I apologize. And their reasoning for that is that all they're trying to do is calm everybody. And that is the reason to either disinform everybody, misinform everybody, straight up lie to everybody, deceive everybody, because they're only looking out for your safety. They don't want you freaked out. They don't want you scared. They want you to go back out there and spend money at the Mandalay Bay, anywhere else that these events have happened. They don't want people afraid to go to these places because that, well, affects the economy. It doesn't hurt your economy if you don't go. In fact, it probably helps your economy if you don't go. You actually get to retain the money versus spending it at these overpriced venues anyways. And if you want to spend your money, you help out the John Lebang Show. We always will be grateful to you for purchasing something on the website or even maybe donating a little bit to try to help out the cause as we're trying to move to the next level. And I mean, we just picked up another radio station this week. Two, actually. I apologize for that. 2 more radio stations this week. So, I mean, it's... You know, some days I can't figure out how we're going to keep doing this, picking up more stations, you know, going out and trying to pitch advertisers as well as actually do the show. Because we're just overwhelmed here and there's not anybody really coming in to save us as far as giving us some help. We can't hire anybody at this time because we can barely feed ourselves. But as things improve around here, we're putting in a new furnace, hopefully in the next few weeks. This place will be rocking really soon. We got the new roof. Probably going to get a paint job or two, get some soundproofing foam. We're really going to turn the studio into a multi-faceted facility that is not only going to house the John Lebang Show, but we're also going to bring in other shows, other artists and whatnot to, you know, not only use the facility for radio purposes, but maybe we can have a rehearsal studio in here. And we're actually thinking about turning this, because it's a big place, there's lots of room here, there are extra rooms to stick people in. We were thinking of turning this into a kind of a bed and breakfast for musicians and artists that travel through, so they don't have to pay those high prices at the Hilton, or they don't have to just drive on through the night to their next destination and have to perform their next gig, you know, worn out because they didn't get any rest or they had to sleep in the back seat of a car. Then we have other things we really need to discuss, and I've added some stuff in there that's really not important to the world, and that's what's going on with the John Lebang Show. But the things that are, and there's a lot to talk about. We got a mother who went to jail for not vaccinating her son, and then when she gets out of prison, or not prison, and she was there 5 days, I think, in jail, because the judge decided he knows more about vaccinating his child than she does, and she gets out and she finds out the kid's vaccinated while she was in there. It's awesome. See, she had a conflict with the father, and the father who's not with her anymore. So we have a child who's kind of in between two parents again. I mean, that's like the running norm here in this country. We can't keep families together. People don't stay together, even if they have children. And if you have children, for the children's sake, you should stay together. I don't care if you don't like each other. You figure out how to make it work. We might talk about that a little later as well, because I've heard a lot of things out of single women who have left their men, who have left the fathers of their children, and what they do after they leave these men. But we can't talk about it right now because we're up against a break. Be right back, folks, as we move on with this week's John Lebang Show. Stay tuned. Hey, you. Yeah, you. Listening there. Don't go anywhere. The John Lebang Show is going to be right back. Just ask the hillbilly.
That's right. Right after this.
What about me? Maybe next time. And I'd like to welcome our new sponsor, Pane in the Glass, commercial and residential window cleaning. For a beautiful, sparkling shine that's crystal clear, call Pane in the Glass Window Cleaning. You can find them on Facebook at Pane in the Glass. You're listening to the John Lebang Show.
Join the radio revolution right here.
It's better than some good Thai stick, man. Yes, I would like some too. Well, Mr. Trump took his sights on Obamacare, the Iran deal, a whole bunch of other little minor things, and he's writing executive orders. And in fact, he's writing more executive orders than any of the previous presidents, apparently in the last 50 years. And as you know, I'm not a fan of those executive orders. And I'm in a real quandary here, because what he is signing it in as an executive order are things that I would like to happen, like making it easy. Well, getting rid of or dismantling Obamacare is one of the things that he did this past week with the executive orders. I wouldn't call it dismantling more than I just think he's modifying it a little bit to make it collapse upon itself. But it was through executive order. And again, we're doing another executive order with the Iran deal and some other various things. And I'm like, this guy who I was behind last year, but I didn't like the fact that President Obama used a ton of executive orders. I don't believe in legislating from the White House. So I'm in a quandary here, because not that I'm a fan of Trump. I thought he was better than Hillary, but I'm not a fan of his. And the longer this has gone on, where nothing seems to be done, and the lousy Republicans who own Congress, they own a majority, they're strong in there, they can do anything they want, can't get anything that the American people who voted for Donald Trump, who elected Donald Trump in office, they can't get anything done. These Republicans are pretty much empty suits. And that leaves Donald Trump, who has to give his base what they want if he wants to have a second term. And I don't know if he wants to have a second term, but most presidents go for it. Second term. But he's not going to get it if he can't get anything done. And we're seeing with the blocks by the Republicans, especially Mr. John McCain over there. You know, more and more that guy acts like a Democrat. I don't know why he just doesn't switch over to the big D. He can hang out with old Harry Balls Reed over there and Nancy Pelosi. It could be the old person club over there. Speaking of old person, you got Hillary Clinton, and this is completely amazing. Hillary Clinton is in talks to be a professor at Columbia University. Hillary Clinton, the biggest liar on the face of the planet, a lady who is a criminal as far as I'm concerned. she's going to be probably a professor, maybe a good shot at it, over at Columbia University. Now, is this some kind of person you want teaching your children? Maybe people won't send their children to Columbia University. I don't know why anybody sends them there in the first place, but people do. And even though it's, somewhat left-leaning on the campus, and it seems to be pretty left-leaning on most college campuses. We have Michigan University over here, and you can go down there any day of the week and see the leftards all over the place. I probably offended a couple people there because they may listen to the show and their children probably go to school there. I'm not saying everybody there at Michigan is a leftard, but and it's, I hate using the left, right, and I hate using communist and socialist all the time because a lot of people don't know what those mean anymore. They don't mean as much as they used to. People aren't as, interested in the differences there. They sure like the differences in race and everything else, but, political ideologies that are far left-leaning, they'd rather not listen to those definitions. You don't want to be mean to those people. But we have, Hillary, who, I don't know. I don't know how anybody would want her to be a professor. And what qualifies Hillary Clinton to be a professor? She wasn't qualified to be president. She wasn't qualified to be Secretary of State or a senator. She's qualified to be a shyster. She's qualified to be an empty suit. She's qualified to be a criminal. And maybe they like criminals over at Columbia University. I don't know. I wouldn't attend that school. But I'm a little different than most. I didn't go to college. I shouldn't say I didn't go. I went to community college. I found out that was a joke. I said, I'm not paying for this crap, and I left. They're not doing it anymore. Did I want to go on to higher learning? Not really. What was there for me to go after? I knew how to do most of the things myself. I teach myself everything, so I had to go to a college so they could grant me a piece of paper saying I know how to do it. You give me a shot, I can show you I know how to do it. I don't have a degree in radio, and look where I'm at compared to most of my other colleagues who went to school for that. On top of that, in fact, I was married to a person who went to Spec Howard's broadcasting school. She's working at Walmart now. So obviously going to the school didn't do her any favors. And Spec Howard's, which my brother went to, and he's got a fine job over at one of the mainstream media outlets, it doesn't guarantee you anything. And if you want to be an on-air talent, it doesn't matter what school you went to. Because being an on-air talent you can't teach that. Sure, you can refine it a little bit, and that's what I've done over the years here on the John Lebang Show. But you can't teach a person to be entertaining, and you can't teach them to be knowledgeable and to be able to talk and to come up with things for an entire hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, or as some of the larger media people are, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. You can't teach that. You can't go to school for that. They can tell you how to tweak your abilities, but they can't teach you how to be a radio personality. I mean, a DJ is one thing when you're saying, hey, this is the band of the week, and here's their song, blah, and blah, and you play that. That's not hard. The hard stuff is being a radio commentary person, or a news anchor, at least something where you can actually go out there and show what kind of talent you have. Now, some of that just sounded like I gave a little credence to the mainstream media. Well, maybe a tad, but really not, because they all went to school. Because you can't get into the mainstream media without some piece of paper saying you went to Spec Howard's. And so you see a few people in the mainstream media. How many other people went to those colleges that they went to those trade schools that they went to? for the exact same thing those big guys are. How many of them went to school and are not in that field anymore? Or never made it to the field? Because it's a hard field, and not only do you have to be entertaining and you have to be able to come up with conversation the whole time, and look at me, I am off on all these other subjects instead of talking about what I kind of promoted in the beginning. But I tell you this, I don't want to talk about Hillary anymore. She's in the news and I have to bring her up and go, geez, can't you go away, you old saggy bag? Just go away. We don't need you anymore. Disappear into the dust. Bill Clinton has done a pretty good job of doing it. She doesn't want to go away. Bill only comes out when she's running for president. He doesn't want to hang out. He's out there getting interns to do things for him. Speaking of that, we got Harvey Wallbanger out there being made a spectacle. I know it's Harvey Weinstein. I understand that, the big famous movie guy. And people are shocked that these women are coming out and saying he wanted sexual favors and he wanted this and massages and having people watch him in the shower. He's a weirdo. He's from Hollywood, and that's how the business has always been. I could tell you stories of just trying to get into the music industry. You would have to sell something of yours. You'd have to give up something to be able to go on to the next level. It is not something new. It should not be a revelation. It's barely a story as far as I'm concerned. These women, you know what? Did you study the ways of Hollywood before you went there to be a Hollywood actress or a model or something? Because if you did any kind of research, any kind of study into that field, you would have known that that's what happens inside Hollywood. You want to get somewhere, you have to give up something. And for pretty women, and I'm not saying it's right, but this is how it is, for pretty women, they have to give up on that side of stuff. But don't think it's just the women who had to deal with these sexual favors to get ahead, because there were men, because there's plenty of gay people in Hollywood, and men who wanted to get ahead in the business were used in the same way these women were. And if you wanted to sell that little piece to get ahead, you would do that. That's not going to come out as fiery as this women's story right now, because they're trying to portray Harvey, the big fat white guy up there. They're going to try to portray Harvey as this bad guy who seduced women, who took advantage of women, because they're trying to get across a narrative that women are used by men. And I know for a fact, because of my dealings inside the music industry, which is hardly any different than the Hollywood industry, if you wanted to give ahead, you had to give up something. Some of it was sexual, some of it would be sexual, like in the case of Harvey's situation. Some of it's you lose your songs if you're a band, or you have to do this or that or the other thing. That's what Hollywood is about. And the only way to stop that, ladies and gentlemen, instead of getting all upset about it on social media and calling this guy a bad thing or that guy a bad thing, which they are, instead of doing that, you need to step away from the mainstream media entirely. You can't go to those movies that Harvey Wallbanger, I know Weinstein, but I like calling him Harvey Wallbanger. It's a good nickname for him. Old Harvey over there, you don't go to his movies. You don't go to any movies that come from Hollywood if you want to stop this stuff. You don't buy the mainstream music if you want this stuff to be stopped. You actually go to people like, the John Lebang Show, or some independent movie people, or some independent bands out there like the Dark Clouds or something like Pure or this new band that I've been playing on my music hour called Prowess. You go to those people. You come to us if you want to eliminate the sexual abuse of Hollywood and the other abuses. Because there's taking advantage of more than just women in Hollywood. If you want to get ahead, and I'm going to keep stressing this because everybody's freaking out about this. Oh, he took advantage of women. I mean, when is this a new revelation? It is not. It has always happened. The only way to stop it is to not watch the movies, not watch the TV shows, not buy the music out of the radio or the music industry. That's it. Because the more you go to their movies, the more you purchase their music, the more this stuff is going to continue because you're giving them your approval by paying for it. You're making Harvey Wallbanger rich, Mr. Weinstein there. You're making Harvey rich by going to his movies, so then he's got the power over these women and who knows who else. Because if he had any inklings of being gay or bi, the men that were involved with that, not many I think will come out. Because I don't think they're too proud about it. See, women can claim a victim and it's okay in the public eye. But if the guy were to do it, it's not quite a victim. You're like, oh, he's gay. He did it because he's bi. Even though the guy might not be. Anyways, folks, we got to take another quick break as we're running way over again time. You know, I get walking and talking on this stuff and I just go. Stay tuned. We got more of the John Lebang Show right after this.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. Listening there. Don't go anywhere. The John Lebang Show is going to be right back. Just ask the hillbilly.
That's right. Right after this.
What about me? Maybe next time.
Fans, do you need a video for your brand new song but don't have a lot of money? Then contact John Lebang. His reasonable rates, professional look, and fast turnarounds will help get that song off the ground. Contact him at jlebang.com.
If you are elderly, disabled, receiving SSI or Medicaid, and you have a medical need or require assistance with daily housework, shopping, grooming, medication, you may qualify for housekeeping at no cost. Call now, VIP Home Healthcare, 248-579-3805. VIP Home Healthcare, there when you need them. That's 248-579-3805.
Hey man, it's at the bottom of the hour, man. Do you know where your kids are, man?
Forces of darkness, the treasonable minds who collaborate must, can, and will be wiped from the face of the earth.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're doing fine this hour here as we're kind of randomly going through just about everything in the news cycle. Got the big wildfires out there in California, or apparent wildfires. It's hard to tell how these things started. They don't really know. Of course, some people are talking about global warming started it, climate change started it. It's all climate change, the humans' fault. Well, it might be humans' fault, but I don't think it's due to climate change. In fact, NASA, it's just great, and we're going to talk about that now. NASA just confirmed that the sea levels are falling across the planet, not rising. So apparently Al Gore and Barack Obama, Al Sharpton, and all those geniuses out there who have been predicting that the sea levels were going to continue to rise, it's not exactly happening. And the reason is because more ice is forming on land surfaces, not even in the water. They're forming on land surfaces. So that suggests that the Earth is cooling overall, which would fall into the study we read about a year ago that says the sun is in a, I don't want to say cooling phase, but it's having less activity as of right now and over the next few years, and it could possibly trigger a small ice age, which we're already in, as people and listeners of the John Lebang Show should know by now, the Pliocene Quaternary Glaciation is the name of the current ice age, and we're experiencing an interglacial period inside of that ice age, but it looks like that interglacial period might be coming to an end, and we might be slipping back into colder temperatures, which does not thrill me at all. Not at all. I know we're getting a new furnace in the place here. That's great. Hopefully it's a little bit more efficient than the 300-year-old furnace. But having cooling temperatures means more snow, more bad winters, longer winters, and as most people know by now, John doesn't like cold weather. Not at all. And one day we may move from the frozen tundra known as Michigan to someplace that stays warmer for a longer period and has maybe a little more relative even temperatures so we can survive better, because the older I get, the less I enjoy the winter. In fact, last winter was fairly mild and I still was a baby over it. When those days when it got real cold, like 10 degrees or something, it was like 10 was about as low as it got last year. A few years ago, some of you will remember, we were like minus 40 degrees wind chill. I was hearing popping in the house. The poor roof was probably busting off. That's probably why I needed a new roof this year. Was that winter a few years back where it was so cold it didn't matter how high you turned your heat in your house, you couldn't get it warm enough, and your heater never stopped, your furnace that is, or your boiler or whatever you run in your house. That thing never stopped. It just kept running for days and weeks and even months because the cold just didn't go away. And according to NASA, the cold must be accumulating for longer durations across the planet because sea levels are dropping and ice levels on land masses are increasing, which means the water that's evaporating out of the ocean is accumulating as snow or something, and as it falls back to the ground, it just gets stuck in places because it's so cold it can't melt to run down streams back into lakes, out into the bigger rivers, and then into the ocean again. It can't do that. A lot of people don't even know the cycle of all that, by the way, which is something they should have learned, I don't know, in maybe 7th or 8th grade at the very latest. They're more worried about teaching you how to put a condom on a banana or something. So we have that. The Earth seems to be cooling, which is might fall in line, real nicely with what Donald Trump was saying there, that we don't need to be part of that climate deal in Paris or France because it's cooling. He didn't say it's cooling, but I'm saying it's cooling. And because the Earth is cooling, we don't need to worry about climate change in that regard. We have to worry about freezing climate change because it always changes. You tell me a place on the planet that has the same exact temperature, humidity, everything every day of the year. Never happens. And if you live here in Michigan, it can change from hour to hour, day to day, week to week. We can go from 100 degrees in the summer to minus 40 degrees in the winter, and we don't think anything of it except we hate the cold. And some people hate the heat. So we've got that as well. Looks like Mr. McCain, as we mentioned earlier, he's also on the block for the tax cuts that might be coming. Donald Trump is being forced to use executive orders to make his agenda happen because the party that supposedly is under him refuses to go along with his agenda, which means it refuses to go along with the American people's agenda because the American people elected Donald Trump. And of course the Democrats are not going to party on Garth with Donald Trump. Not at all. In fact, after Trump basically told them to stick DACA They haven't been too friendly with him. I mean, they haven't been friendly at all with him since the very beginning. When he was elected, they were depressed and sad and angry that they lost the presidential election. They should have known they were. They cheated Hillary into the nomination, and then Hillary, with all her evil and her crookedness and her lies and a few falls to the earth, she wasn't worthy of the presidency. Not Donald Trump technically isn't worthy of it, but he's all we had after Hillary. So, I mean, we can blame the Democrats for that as well if you want. Pelosi's out there saying that Trump's policies are violent and pretty much dangerous to America and the world. Trump's policies, not her policies. Nah. Nothing she's involved with is ever bad for Americans. I mean, she did vote for Obamacare, which is damaging me. I can't afford to go get health care, and I have a few health issues that I'd really like to have checked out. But I can't afford it unless I go and beg the government for a subsidy. Here, let me have somebody else pay for my health care. And that's the idea of most of the people in the Democrat Party. Have somebody else pay for it. That's why they don't mind raising taxes, because somebody else is paying for their ideas. And we see the Republicans aren't that keen on lowering taxes, or they're not acting like they're keen on lowering taxes. They're going to find ways to raise taxes. And in fact, with all the disasters, the hurricanes, the fires, there's going to have to be a lot of tax-funded relief. And they don't have the money for it. So either they're going to borrow it, or they're going to have no choice at all but to raise taxes on us, even though they promise not to. But how else are they going to pay for all these unexpected events that just randomly popped up during the Trump administration, which bears no fault on Trump? As far as I can tell, it's not like he made the hurricane slam into the Texas and Florida and Puerto Rico. And it's not like he started the fire in California. I mean, maybe there's people who believe that. I have no evidence of that. So, that's there. There's a movie, a friend of mine, and I forgot the title of it, Geostorm, I think it's called, actually. She sent me a trailer for this movie called Geostorm. I'm pretty sure it's that. And the concept, the premise of the movie is that somebody developed weather weapons and are now using them on the planet. Just randomly, while all these other events are happening, they're using weather weapons against the world. And, it's funny because we have brought that up many times. We had talked about how JFK wanted to have a global satellite global satellite system, and as far as the weather is concerned, he wanted to control it. And we know we have that global satellite system, so it's reasonable to assume that they're pretty close, if not already there, on controlling the weather. And in fact, with all the studies that I have done, the research that I've involved myself with, I'm pretty positive that they are already involved in weather manipulation, if not straight up weather control. And we're seeing with China and the Olympics, they're going to not make it rain on the opening ceremonies. They're going to use weather modification to make it not rain during the opening ceremonies, as they did back when the Winter Olympics were there, and they made it snow. They made it snow. Not a lot of people know that. They either that or they don't care. And a lot of people are like, what are you talking about, dude? I'd never heard of that. That's because you don't do any studying. In fact, you probably watch Game of Thrones or Walking Dead, or you probably, listen to the mainstream media who does not give you this kind of information. But there are patents all over the internet that all you have to do is type in Google. You just type in weather modification patent, hit the go button, and there you go. You'll have plenty of listings there to go through to show you that there are plenty of patents out there in the public domain that are related to weather modification. So we have that to contend with. Is this movie just some random concept that somebody came up with? Or is it something that is happening and they're just getting us used to the idea? Just getting us used to it because they can't shock the American people. We had that study that we read about, 6 or 8 months ago, where Harvard was going to start doing geoengineering tests to see if they could modify the weather. And that was in mainstream news. So they're slowly dribbling this stuff out so the rest of us can get used to the idea and we're not shocking the citizenry as a whole. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break as we're running up against another one here. When we return, we're going to do our last segment here on the first hour of the John Lebang Show. Be right back.
Where do you think you're going?
The John Lebang Show will be right back.
So grab a beer and a smoke and sit your butt back down. Stay right here.
Powerful, epic music by Toot Box Roll. Life-changing lyrics come in every style, empowering humanity to finally unlock the chains of bondage. Experience the edgy side of positive music and rock your world today. From Primal to Divine, available now at sassyalternativemusic.com.
If you want to contact the John Lebang Show, feel free to send an email to jlebang@live.com. And if you're on Twitter, look him up at John Lebang. And don't forget to go to his Facebook page at The John Lebang Show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back as we're in the final segment here in the first hour. Step away a little bit from the news cycle and to get into something that I had observed earlier in the week. I was in a paint store earlier in the week, and this couple had come in, obviously not married, and we'll get to that, why I could tell they weren't married. And they had 2 children with them. And the kids were just running rampant, and the mother was doing her thing, looking through little paint charts and everything. And the gentleman tried to stop the children from being a menace in this paint store. And the lady gave him the look one time, and then the second time, which was quite shocking that she did this in public, she's like, and I'm going to paraphrase this because I don't know if I have the exact words, but it was to the effect of, my kids come first, and you're not their father. I love that. I have to tell you, I've heard that more than once in my day. At least a similar thing. And we see it out there, and it's a lot of times it's single moms that have this attitude. And these single moms, a lot of them are single because they left the father for whatever reason, whether he was cheating or whatever. I mean, if there was abuse and stuff, you got to leave for the children's sake. But a lot of times it's over cheating, or they weren't happy over whatever they perceived to be unhappy about, and they leave, which does not put the child first by any means, because putting a child through a divorce or a split up or keeping the kid from dad which dad needs to be an integral part of a child's development. And as long as the dad's not some kind of, criminal, or, he didn't commit crime and that's why she's not with him, or he wasn't abusing her or the children, and it was just something like cheating or, I don't know all these scenarios, but as long as there's not a life-threatening or physically threatening situation, and the woman decides to leave, she made that choice for herself because she was unhappy for whatever reason. And she's putting her children not first in that, because if she would have put them first, she would have found a way to stick it out until they were at least old enough to where they could handle it. Because coming from a broken home, I know that it is very difficult on the children when mom and dad split up and they've got to be passed around back and forth. And I know that's the common theme for this day and age, that there are a lot of single mothers out there that just chose to leave their husbands or the fathers of their children. And what gets me out of all this is they expect alimony and child support, which, sure, I understand that. But a great deal of these people, instead of going to work, because most of them were stay-at-home type moms, they didn't work, they took care of the kids at home, they weren't happy, whatever. Instead of going to find a job, they go on the government funding. So all they do is replace the boyfriend or the husband, the baby daddy, for the government. They just, replace them. We don't need you. We can run to Uncle Sam because Uncle Sam's going to give me money, because all I have to do is claim that I'm some kind of victim. And even though I'm a victim through my own accord, whatever that might be, and I have to, I understand that cheating's not a good thing. In fact, when I was married, I had to live through the cheating thing. And I didn't have kids, and I still tried to figure it out, try to make it work it out. Because marriage is supposed to be something sacred, and you better for worse. That's what you get married for. And when somebody is cheating, that's on the for worse side, and you try to work that out somehow. You try to make it not happen. At least for the kids. When the kids are gone, when the kids are old enough to understand and move on, and it's not crucial for their development, then I can see maybe the idea of leaving, separating, breaking up. But by that time, you're 18, 20 years into it. You might as well stay for the Social Security at that point, don't you think, ladies? But they choose to go on their own, which is not really going on their own, because they just run to the government. And I'm not saying all ladies do that, because some actually have work and some had legitimate reasons for leaving that were for the betterment of the family structure. Dad was a crook. Dad was an abusive father. Dad was beating up mom. Those are completely legitimate reasons to leave. And although many women who are listening today, and I know I might offend a lot of women out there, cheating may be legitimate to you, him going around on you. And guys, this is the same for you, because if your wife's cheating on you and you decide to leave and break up the family, this also falls into your category, although I will admit, most of the time, when men leave due to cheating, they're still stuck with the alimony and they can't go on the government dole. Most of them. But then you replace the husband or the boyfriend or the dad, and you probably still get child support and alimony. If you don't get child support, that's between you and the dad, and you find a way to get that out of them, but you don't go to the government. The government doesn't become the daddy of the kid, and that's what I'm getting at. It's made it so easy to go, okay, he cheated on me, I'm leaving. I'm taking the kids, I'm leaving here. I can just go on the government dole. And then puts it on, then you get a guy who sees a girl and she's supposedly single, although she's, just divorced or separated or whatever. And then he doesn't have a say in the kid's development at all, because to the mom, that guy isn't as worth as much as the kids to her. Sure, I understand that. I get it. But the kids weren't worth it enough to stick it out for the family's sake. So when I hear a mother, a single mom, who probably left her husband for cheating or some minor reason, maybe he couldn't perform in the bedroom or something really, non-life-threatening, non-physically threatening. When I hear them going, my children come first, I just want to stick up and say, you lying piece of crap. Your children only come first when it's not you who is the center of it all. When it's you at the center, your children didn't come first. You took off. You moved on. You got, you bought. And see, this is the thing, that gets me with all the people that run to the government for things. Because you look at them, a lot of people are smoking. Well, the government don't pay for your cigarettes, but they'll pay for your food, so you'll keep smoking. You'll use your money, wherever you get it, to smoke, but you can't pay for your own food. You're going to make some other person, which is where the government has to get the money from, your neighbor, your friend, your colleague, whoever it might be. They have to get money from somebody to give to you for the food. But you can smoke cigarettes. You can go out and get tattoos. You can still get your perm. Still can do your hair. Still can have your makeup. Still pick up that perfume. Still get the meaningless or mindless little things that you need, little trinkets or whatever. But you can't afford your food. But you can't afford your housing. But you can't afford this and you can't afford that. But you can afford these other things. That's another thing I have with these programs. If you're on these things, these should be temporary. You get it for a year. Just like unemployment. Even less than unemployment, if you ask me, because at least unemployment, the people have to work for that to accumulate in the unemployment system. The money has to accumulate there, and that's only based on the person's work. You work, and your company goes, okay, you work so many hours, we got to pay so much to unemployment for him or her. We want to get all that right, him or her. Anything beyond that, even though it might, according to California, it might be some kind of discrimination. And remember, we talked about this when Canada passed a law, picking, if you say the wrong gender, even though there's man and woman, and you call a guy in a dress who wears lipsticks and he had boob implants, you call him a man, that's wrong. You could go to jail in Canada, maybe. Well, looks like California is trying to pass the same kind of law, the same kind of thing, which is incredible. It's already infected this country. When we've talked about genetics many times before on this, and where the word comes from, where gender comes from genetics and genitals. All those words are related. So if you have a schmeckle swinging, doesn't matter you have boob implants. When you were born, if you had a schmeckle swinging, you're a boy. And if you cut them off, that's your thing. Well, it ain't your thing anymore. In fact, you don't have a thing anymore. How I got onto this when we were talking about mothers and all that, I have no idea. You know how the John Lebang Show goes. We just roll with it and we talk about whatever comes to mind. But it looks like we're running it up against the end of the show, folks. Normally I do the big, and that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Well, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. We're at the end of the broadcast for this first hour. I'd like to thank all of our affiliate stations across the globe. Don't forget to go to our website. That's www.jlebang.com. Don't forget, in the second hour, we're having the world-famous comedian Paul Farah joining us for an hour of mayhem. Don't you dare miss it. And with that being said, folks, I want to thank you, the listener, and tell you this. Until the vibrations of my vocal cords reach your ears again. This is John Lebang signing off from the Banger Studios.
Tune in again next
See you next hour.
Same time, same space, same station.
Resistance is futile.